Good day, traders. Hope you guys are good and welcome to this week's segment of our weekly market breakdowns. If you're new to this channel here, we talk about everything Forex. So if you enjoy Forex related content, make sure that you smash the subscribe button, as it also helps my channel to grow and reach other people. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. And I hope you enjoy today's video. Without wasting any more of your time, we're going to start by looking at EURJPY on the weekly. As we've established in the previous weeks, we're in an uptrend, and we will still consider ourselves to be in an uptrend until price breaks the low. Now, let's look at where price is headed. Price is headed towards this demand zone over here. And if we look at this demand zone, I feel like the first thing that stands out with this demand zone is that it has broken through previous structure. It has a strong departure. It has consolidation away, and it's fresh. So what I'm expecting is that the market will retest it and then use the orders that are left there to go up, right? Currently, though, we see that supply is in control. And I think in last week's breakdown, I went into great detail as to what's the difference between a supply level being in control and the supply and demand curve. But yeah, currently supply is in control. That means that any demand setup that you'll find that's not on this demand zone will be a low probability. So if you want higher probability trades, you better wait for the market to retest this level, right? So let's look on a lower time frame what's happening. And if you go to a lower time frame, here's the zone that we are approaching, right? So I'll take my profit here, right? And going into this demand zone, we also see that price has printed this movement over here. And with this movement, it has broken through this low, meaning that we have a downtrend approaching this demand zone. With this downtrend, we also have this lower low that's formed, and this will be an area of liquidity, which I believe will be much more visible if you go to the lower time frame. So now, because this is an area, or this is a low, we know that a low is also an area of liquidity. So we know that market makers have incentive to now take out any retail orders that are resting here. We know that there are probably retail traders who have their buy orders resting here. And so we're waiting for big money to take those out, and then after hitting them, go into this demand zone and then go to the upside, right? That's it. Basically, that's it. Let's go to the 4 hour. So on the 4 hour, you can see clearly that there's this area of liquidity, right, with the swing low, and there's this gap that has still been created. We only managed to fill in some of the orders, and there's still some orders resting here. And this is then the source of that imbalance, right? Which in this context, yes, is our supply zone. A demand zone, sorry, a demand zone. So if you've seen my liquidity video, you already know the drill, you already know why this happens. If you haven't watched it, the link to it will be in the description box below. But basically what I'm waiting for is this, maybe a grab of liquidity, right? If we look at the setup, it's a beautiful setup. We have this nested demand zone, which is fresh, and it's good that it has a bit of induction with this false downtrend. Well, it's not a false downtrend, but it's a retail downtrend. And even if you look at the risk to reward, it's pretty solid. You get what I mean? So that's where I'm taking my profit. Clean 129. Post updates on this on Instagram and Telegram. Make sure that you follow us on all of those platforms. The link to our pages on those platforms will be available in the description box below. But yeah, guys, these are my sentiments on EURJPY. Yeah, let's move on to another pair. Now we are on GBPJPY, right? And similarly to the EURJPY, we're in an uptrend, right? So we're seeing that the market has recently created this high over here, filling in this gap here, right? That was the imbalance that was left, right? And now the market is struggling to break through this high over here. Now, what I'm anticipating, because of the uptrend, naturally would be like a strong candlestick above. What I want to see, rather, is a strong candlestick above that creates new highs, a new impulsive move that breaks through this high and confirms the continuation of the uptrend, right? But then until that happens, then we need to talk about what is happening right now. For example, we have this bearish candlestick that closed last week, right? We have that bearish candlestick acting from this area of supply. So in this instance, supply is still in control, right? And even if you look at where price reacted, this could be a potential area of demand, but then because it hasn't resulted in a break of structure, or the break of structure is just a mere fake out, I wouldn't necessarily consider it a full-blown like breakout. But then it was just a mere fake out. I think that price can push to the downside one more time before going up. That's if we don't get the impulsive move already, right? But then we always talk about congested price action on significant levels, right? And so I think this is one of those scenarios where we have that congested price action on this level. But then, yeah, I think if we go to lower time frames, we'll see what's happening here much more clearly, right? So this is what we have right now. We have this fake out being much more clear. So this was clear buy side liquidity. And also we see that we closed off with this bearish pressure. So it's for that reason then that I'd expect a drop, a temporary drop to the downside, right? Also considering the fact that we're still in a higher time frame or in a nested supply region. You get what I mean? So it looks a bit tricky, I understand, but then that's what is happening. Unless the market breaks to the upside. As you can see right here, a lot of orders, there is no real imbalance. The imbalance that I'm seeing in actual field. And so I don't necessarily believe that price will go all the way down, but if it does go all the way down, this is like the only valid demand area that I see, because this demand area over here has already been violated. So right here, I can just identify liquidity. You get what I mean? If we go to the 4-hour, we have this we have this reaction from this nested demand supply level. Obviously, it came back, created this failure swing. We had this imbalance that dropped to the downside, broke previous structure, right? That source of imbalance, which is our supply area. We see that we had this induction over here of liquidity where the market created an uptrend approaching this area of supply over here, right? And so after this induction, we got a reaction. And so price could be dropping. You know what I mean? So in this context, I think one thing that I'm waiting for is a break below structure. So a break below this low over here. Obviously, you can't see it. But if I can get at least one bearish candlestick, I'll take the entry. You get what I mean? If you don't want to draw it like this, you can also draw it like this. So I think if you change that trend line, you'll see we had this swing high over here. The market grabbed liquidity, went into the supply zone, and then we had this drop to the downside. And so with that, I have every reason to believe that we're going to get a temporary drop to the downside, right? So assuming that I get every confirmation that I've been looking for, so this is the first scenario. Another scenario is that this could hit our stop loss and then continue going to the upside, because on a macro, we're still in a long-term uptrend. But yeah, these are my sentiments on GBPJPY. Let's move on to another pair. All right, moving right along. Now we are on NZDUSD. As you can see, we're in this downtrend over here with the market making consecutive lower highs and lower lows. We recently had the break of structure over here. And then we had this order block here. Another area of supply is this one, right? We'll talk, maybe if we have a midweek analysis, we'll talk about it if this one fails to hold. But then for now, this is the one that I want us to focus on. All right. So after a break of structure from this low over here, we have this induction, right? And an induction of form of the market forming a new trend, a corrective trend or a counter trend, and then coming into this area of supply. So we know that in this instant, the market is pushing price high and forming a new trend that will lure retail traders into buying. And as soon as we have enough retail traders buying, that's when you get a drop, right? For now, we have this high that I'll consider an area of liquidity, right? And I think it will be much more clear if we go to the downside. If we go to the lower time frames, but just to be clear, I'm expecting the market to take liquidity from this high, and then maybe you could get a drop. If it's not the supply level that will trigger our long-term sales, it will definitely be this premium one over here. Let's go to the 4 hour. So on the 4 hour, we have this imbalance over here. You get what I mean? We have this imbalance over here, and the source of that imbalance is also a nested supply level. Right? Now, this makes a good supply level for various amount of reasons. Reason number one, it has resulted in a break of structure. It has a strong departure away from it, right? It's fresh, hasn't been tested. And also price has spent quite a number of time away from it, right? So that's what makes it an ideal level. So like I said, I believe that we're in a induction period where price is generating liquidity. And this is where I'm going to be placing my sell limit. And then this is where I'm going to be placing my take profit, right? Currently, right, the market is on this area of supply. And if it holds, I'm going to wait for a breakout below this level. I don't necessarily think price will go all the way down because we have this demand level over here. So yeah, the market needs to break through this level, right? But I still believe that we're still generating liquidity, could form a new high, and then go to the upside, right? But yeah, we'll see what happens during the week. I do not want to like overthink this. But then for me personally, I would want to see price push up for the beginning of the week, just to lure retail traders into trading one direction and then moving into the other. You get what I mean? But yeah, these are my thoughts and sentiments on NZDUSD. Let's move on to another pair. Now we are on AUDJPY. And okay, I'm going to start by looking at the daily. We have this fresh demand zone, hasn't really been tapped. And then just before that demand zone, you have this area of liquidity. So from this, like I always say, price has incentive to now take out some of the orders here, right? Where is price going now? Price is approaching this level right here. That's on top of this demand zone over here. And similar thing in terms of there being liquidity and incentive to take out that liquidity. Now we see that there is no imbalance if you look at like the most recent price action. So currently speaking, supply is in control, right? And then we are approaching demand. So I'm seeing sell opportunities unless we can break through this level. All right, let's go to the 4 hour. If you go to the 4 hour, it's much more clear where we have this area of liquidity over here and liquidity being taken out. So buy stop liquidity. and then the market failing to break above this level over here. And now all we need to confirm the drop is a break below this level, right? If we can get a break below this level, we'll use an order block to trigger orders and then expect to drop to the downside, right? But because there's also liquidity here, that's the first scenario. But because there's also liquidity here, maybe I should be looking into trading from a nested supply level, right? Like this one that has only been tested once. You know what I mean? So maybe I should be trading into, or I should be trading from the supply level, right? And so really, it just depends on what we see during the week. So if, say, for example, the market goes to take this liquidity, I'm gonna take my sell here. But yeah, guys, that's all I see. That's all I see. Obviously, on top of the other pairs that we saw last week, namely AUD CAD, JPY, USDJPY, and AUDUSD. I don't want to make this longer than it needs to be. If you want to keep up with these pairs with me, make sure that you subscribe to my Telegram page. And I'll see you guys in the next video. For now, peace.